In today's lesson, we will be multiplying polynomials by a monomial, and then we're also going to get the first introduction on factoring, and we'll be factoring monomials out of polynomials, and you will see what I'm talking about later in the lesson. So first, let's do a very quick review. Just two easy concepts that you need to know before we do today's lesson. First, the distributive property. If you have 3 and then you're multiplying by 2x plus 9, you simply multiply the 3 by everything inside the parentheses, and this becomes 6x plus 27. So easy peasy. And then now review multiplying powers. This is our just last unit we just finished. If you have x squared times x to the 4th, what do? You end up adding your exponents, so this would be equal to x to the power of 6. Alright, so now, as you can see here, we have a polynomial. So we have these three terms, polynomial, and then we have this monomial out in front. And we're going to distribute the monomial to the polynomial. So all we're going to do is just multiply the monomial by each term. And when you do this, you multiply the coefficients, so -4 times 5, and then when you're multiplying your powers, what you end up doing is you add the exponents. So -4 times 5, -20, and then this is y to the power of 6. And then when you distribute -4y squared times -3y squared, -4 times -3 is a positive 12. And then this would be y to the 4th. And then the last step, -4y squared times 2. -4 times 2 is a -8. And then the y squared will just kind of follow with the term. So it's -8y squared. And there we have successfully multiplied a monomial by a polynomial. Alright, so here is example 2. 2x is the monomial, and then multiply by the polynomial 6x to the 3rd minus x squared plus 5x. So 2x times 6x to the 3rd, 2 times 6 is 12. And then x times x to the 3rd, remember x technically has exponent 1, so this would be x to the 4th power. And then 2 times -x squared be minus 2x to the 3rd. And then 2x times 5x is 10x squared. And that's it. Alright, last one of these together, and then I'm going to give you 3 to try on your own. So we distribute -3g to the 7th times g to the 4th would be -3 g to the, add your exponents, so 7 plus 4 is 11. And now -3 times -6 is plus 18, and g to the 7th times g squared becomes g to the 9th. And then -3 times 5 would be -15, and that g to the 7th carries over. Alright, so here are 3 examples. They won't take very long, so I want you to pause the video and write them down. Try them on your own, and then go back and check your answers. For the first one, you should get 2x to the 3rd plus 18x squared. Just make sure that your final answer is always written in standard form. Second example, you should get -21h squared, or h to the 3rd, plus 56h squared, plus 7h. And then the last one, you should have gotten -45x to the 5th, plus 40x to the 4th, plus 25x to the 3rd. Alright, so now we're going to be kind of working backwards, doing the opposite of the distributive property. The opposite of multiplying is we will be factoring. And the first step of factoring is finding the greatest common factor between terms. So here we're just going to practice finding the greatest common factor. So 6 and 8, what number, so with just looking at the coefficients, what number, the highest number that can be multiplied into both 6 and 8? So 6, let's see, you've got 1, 2, 3, and 6, and 8, you have 1, 2, 4, and 8. So the highest number that can be multiplied into 6 and 8 is 2. And then we also have to look at the variable. A goes into A, and A squared, or A goes into A squared, so A is also part of the greatest common factor. And now, let's see, we have 9, 6, and 12. What number can be multiplied into all three of them? The greatest number that can. It is 3. And then to find the GCF of your variables, since they all have x, you actually just take the one with the smallest exponent, and that is your GCF, so 3x squared. And then the last one, we have 4, 12, and 8. 4 is the GCF, and then x is the GCF. So now we're going to use that concept to factor our polynomials. Alright, so factoring polynomials by greatest common factor. It's basically we're doing the opposite of the distributive property. We're kind of like undistributing or factoring. So your steps that we will follow, you have to find the greatest common factor, and then you're going to divide each term by the greatest common factor. Alright, so here we have a polynomial and we're going to factor it. So we need to figure out between 3, 12, and 15, what is the GCF? The GCF is 3. And then you also have to look at your variables. We have x to the third, x squared, and x. The one with the smallest exponent comes out, so it's just x. So what we're doing is we're doing the opposite of the distributive property. So our final answer is going to look like this, where we have a monomial times a polynomial. And to get the inside of the parentheses, we will be dividing each term by the GCF. So 3 divided by 3, 3's cancel out, and x to the third divided by x to the first, you subtract your exponents, so it is x squared. And then minus 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then x squared divided by x to the first, subtract your exponents, you're left with just x. And then plus 15 divided by 3 is 5, and then the x's cancel out. So as you can see, your answer looks like the distributive property because we went backwards. And you can always check your answer by, if you now go through and distribute this, let's see, you should get 3x to the third, and then minus 12x squared plus 15x. After you distribute, do you go back to the original problem? And we do, so it works. Alright, so let's factor this one, and then you can try 2 on your own. So let's find the greatest common factor between 6, 12, and 24. GCF is 6. And then m to the fourth, m to the third, and m squared. The variable with the smallest exponent is m squared. So that's the GCF. And now we need to divide each term by the GCF to fill inside our parentheses. So 6 divided by 6 cancels out. M to the fourth divided by m squared is m squared. And then minus 12 divided by 6 is 2. M to the third divided by m squared is just m. And then minus 24 divided by 6 is 4, and the m squareds cancel out. So you're left with 6m squared times m squared minus 2m minus 4. And that is it. Okay, last two questions. I want you to pause the video and then write these down, try them on your own, and then come back and check your answer. For the first one, you should get 4x times the quantity 2x minus 3. In the second example, you should get 3n times 5n squared minus n plus 4. So there's your full lesson. First, multiplying a monomial times a polynomial, and then factoring, which means you find the greatest common factor, the monomial, and divide it out of your polynomial. Good luck!